I'm calling this meeting of the Town of Silver City Council to order. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening. I'd like to also welcome Captain Villegas of the Silver City Police Department here with us. The next item on the agenda is changes to the agenda. Do any of the council want to make changes to the agenda? No changes. So the next item is proclamations. The town would like to recognize Eve West Bessier as the Silver City area's Poet Laureate for 2019-2021. Introducing her will be Behata Sigrid daughter, one of the outgoing Poet Laureate. Would you first introduce yourselves to everyone so we know who's who?
I am Beata Sigrid daughter. I was Poet Laureate of Silver City and Grant County for the last 2 years.
And I'm Eve West Bessier, and I'm honored to be the new Poet Laureate for Silver City and Grant County. We're going to swear down.
We know how.
I believe you.
Whereas the town of Silver City is incorporated to provide public services and opportunities for cultural enrichment to the community. And whereas the town's effectiveness in the provision of these services and opportunities is often dependent upon the independent vision and efforts of the local citizenry. And whereas the steering committee for the Southwest Festival of the Written Word, with the endorsement of the town of Silver City's mayor and town council, has initiated and completed a search for the Silver City area's next official Poet Laureate. And whereas that search has been completed, resulting in the selection of an excellent candidate to hold the honorary post of Silver City Poet Laureate. Now therefore, on behalf of the Silver City Town Council, I, Ken Ladner, Mayor of the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico, hereby formally acknowledge and endorse and proclaim Eve West Bessier as the Silver City Area Poet Laureate for 2019-2021. Present that to you. If you want to do a photograph first, and then... Okay, will you introduce him? Do your thing.
So I am really honored to be able to pass along this honorary position. On behalf of the Southwest Festival of the Written Word and the Poet Laureate program that they have established, it is supposed to be an outreach program for the community, for the Poet Laureate to bring poetry into the community, and Eve is particularly suited for that. I am personally extremely excited that she was chosen by the community. I had nothing to do with the choice, but I'm very, very excited about it. Eve is not only an excellent poet, and she writes prose as well, but she is also an accomplished musician, and she will bring quite a bit of enrichment to our community, I very strongly believe. Eve grew up in the Netherlands, or originally in the Netherlands. We have her mother with us today, who happened to be visiting at this time. It was not planned. So, I would really like to say 1,000 things about Eve, but I'll spare you. You probably don't have that much time. But what we do normally, or in other arenas, we hand along a torch. In this case, I will hand along my laurel wreath, and as you can see, it's invisible, but that's also it's very meaningful, and it's also very practical. You can wear it over your head, you can wear it under your head, you can wear it as you're sleeping, and
We'll do this very formally.
without any further kerfuffle, please help me celebrate Yves Vespasier as the new president.
So I can address them, or sideways? Address you, because sideways, okay, that makes sense. Well, I have written a poem this last week that is an ode to Silver City in Grant County, and I have a copy that I want to give to you. I will just leave it on the podium, probably, or I'll bring it up after I finish. I'd like to read the poem to you. It's only one page, so don't worry. Ode to Silver City and Grant County. This is the place you've been looking for all of your life. Or, if you're lucky, the place you've been living in all of your life. Either way, this is the place that calls you by your true name, gives you the wide open space to lean into your future. This is the place where the winds shift and battle, tossing the high tops of ponderosas in dueling jet streams across the continental divide, while you walk far beneath in only a gentle breeze, scented with pine, listening to the taffeta skirt swish of needles serenading from above. This is the place where rain-heavy clouds drive in from the Black Range like freight trains in the monsoon afternoon to meet head-on with white cumulus rising out of the Gila. Here comes the crackling lightning, the uproarious thunder, as the storms collide like prize fighters. This is the place where tourists upscale their dinner plans, find unique objects of art at world-class galleries, and search for treasures in overstuffed antique shops. This is the place where amateur archaeologists climb up into the Gila cliff dwellings, and astronomy enthusiasts gather at the City of Rocks with their telescopes aimed. This is the place where you can hire a real cowboy, dressed in his chaps and faded black Stetson, wearing his revolver on his hip. He holds his for hire sign while standing on the side of 180 with his horse, his mule, and his winning smile, ready to mend your fences. This is the place where history still sits on a high stool at the Buckhorn Saloon, leaning a leather-clad elbow on the bar and ordering a sarsaparilla, or something a little stronger, to take the taste of dust from the throat while listening to a pretty fine fiddle player. This is the place where when the price of copper is high, you can make a good wage, driving a truck the size of a two-story house along the side of a mountain, being peeled away one layer at a time, revealing o'er the mauve shade of the faded winter sunset. This is the place where you can fish for trout and bass at Bill Evans Lake, or take your daughter and her posse roller skating in Bayard, or ring your cowbell at the finish line as champion cyclists speed in from the Gila Monster conquering. This is the place just 90 miles from Mexico where you can eat fresh empanadas, filled with apricots as sweet as your abuela's voice singing her favorite love song, Bésame, bésame mucho, como si fuera esta noche la última vez. Bésame, bésame mucho, que tengo miedo perderte después. This is the place where we work with our sons and daughters in the family business, clearing clogged plumbing, putting in new windows, preparing accurate tax returns, making traditional tamales, creating a life that reflects our hopes and our joys. This is the place where we hold our celebrations, our mixing of the bold cultures and customs that so brightly color our hometown and county and bless our lives.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bezier. Next on the agenda is council comments. Councilor Heyman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we have a long agenda. I only have 2 brief comments. I want to say that I was at the farmer's market, Give Grandly, from 8 o'clock until 1 o'clock on Saturday, and I was counting for the farmer's market. I counted 983 people who came by, some of whom who said hello to me, so yay. And I know it was quite a fabulous day. The other thing that I want to do is I want to particularly thank the Friends of the Library, which is an independent nonprofit organization that does fundraising for our public library. I was honored yesterday to go to their end-of-the-year luncheon, and one of the things that they and the library director proudly announced was that because of their fundraising, there will be children and youth programs every day the library is open during the summer. So did you hear that, parents and grandparents? Every day that the library is open, there will be a variety of activities, from art to Minecraft to robots to young engineers to reading groups. There will be a lot of stuff going on. So I want to acknowledge the town manager's work with the library, because it's been fabulous, and the Friends of the Library for their work too.
Thank you. Councilor Boson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep it short too. I have 2 comments. The first one, I just wanted to let everyone know what my takeaway from the April 23rd council meeting regarding the budget was. I know that there were headlines about the 30-cent per 1,000 gallon increase across the board for everyone. But I think the big takeaway that I just want to reiterate, and I'm sure that Mr. Brown will bring it up tonight, is the fact that we do not, in this town, have to do any eighth or any portion of the hold harmless GRT next year. So your gross receipts tax will not be going up. We have not implemented any portion of that, and that is the big takeaway, because that would go on every purchase that you make. So I think that's really critical to know, that our finance department and Mr. Brown and our department heads have done such a great job of setting up the budget that we do not have to raise taxes. So that's like the biggest thing that I wanted to say. And then the other thing I wanted to say was a little bit about one of the places that I work, that I wanted to make this announcement because we're trying to get an article out to the paper, that this Saturday on May 18th, the WNMU Museum will be opening to the public on weekends, and we will be open 10 to 4 Saturday and Sunday, and we will be open holiday weekends, not the holiday itself. And so we're trying to make sure that we have opportunities for all our visitors that come into town. So, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Councilor Connell.
Mayor, I have a few things. First of all, I just returned from the Workforce Solutions Conference that was held in Albuquerque, that was sponsored by the Department of Workforce Solutions. It was a really informative 3 days worth of workshops. The main focuses were on youth engagement and trying to find ways to fund the Department of Disability and Vocational Rehabilitation, because that department is severely underfunded, so that's been a problem for our communities all over the state. There's going to be a lot of changes in the Workforce Solutions area, so you'll be seeing a lot of press releases soon probably about that. So it was quite informative. Also, on Monday, this past Monday, I participated in a flyover over the Gila in a very tiny little plane. That it was meant for the group that went to see where the wild and scenic designation will be taking place on the Gila should it pass through the congressional delegation is trying to propose that right now in Washington. It was sponsored, the flyover was sponsored by the New Mexico Wilderness Alliance and a group called Echo Flight that does flyovers for different places that are working on federal designations. This was a completely free event, and it was something that they would like to see more people participate in. So if anyone from the town staff or the town government is interested, please let me know so that I can help you arrange the next time that they're in town to do that. And then the last thing is, I was very happy to see in the Daily Press that there was an article about the museum trying to change its image a little bit and trying to get public input into what is going to happen at the museum from now on. Unfortunately, there were also some concerns that came from that article. And the main one, I received several complaints, I don't know if any of the counselors did. Specifically, there was a quote that said, and it was by the interim director of the museum, the community has some old wounds around union management and division between Anglos and Spanish speakers, he said. Okay, and there's the rest of the quote, but the point there is, yet again, we have a diversity issue in that department. A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that the museum had some issues with people who were disabled and not handling them correctly, dealing with the population correctly. And now we have an issue where we're trying to mix an ethnic group with a linguistic group. There are plenty of Anglos in this town who speak Spanish. There are plenty of Hispanic people in this town who do not speak Spanish. Those two things are not the same thing. So I would like to see the staff of the museum and possibly the rest of the town staff given some kind of diversity training, because we cannot continue to have comments like that made if we're going to be a community that works together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. With the Blues Festival coming up here very shortly, I'm urging, and I'm making this comment for myself, not for the town council, but I'm urging the people to please support them. Please support the Blues Festival. The town, the county, and the city, they all do certain events all year long. And you can go downtown on any given day, and there's a lot of people downtown. Please be supportive of the Blues Festival. Some people don't like it, some people like it. Same thing with the Tour de Gila. Support them. We need them. It doesn't matter if they don't bring a lot of people, which they probably don't. But anything is better than nothing at all. Now, I have an issue with the Daily Press. I strongly believe that they don't say everything that is said up here, and they only give people a certain tidbits and make the people make up their own minds. I don't think that's right, Mr. Stiepel. I don't know if it's you or the writers or what, but if you're going to be a reporter and you can be an editor of the paper, put down the whole thing, not just a little bit, and let the people make up their mind. Don't put words in people's mouths or thoughts in their minds. There is too much hatred being put down in the papers. There was an article here not too long ago, letter to the editor, complaining about the city people. Why? Why do you complain about the city people? We try to do our best. Mr. Brown, everybody can try to do their best. Not everybody likes it. And it's impossible to be liked by everybody. But that's, to me, it's being unethical. Also, we're going to have a fiesta in September. It's going to be the Labor Day fiesta. And it's going to be called Carnitas, Música y Más. And the más means more things are going to be happening, not just for certain individuals. Mr. Al Gamboa, Mr. Alfred forget his last name. Ugas. Myself, Mario Quintana, Councilor Cano, some other people, Mr. Quintana. We're gonna get together, and we've been getting together for the last couple of weeks. This is gonna be a nice fiesta. We're gonna have music, Spanish music, we're gonna have country and western music, and we're gonna have rock and roll music. We're looking to have some sort of activities for the youth and for the elderly people also. And this is going to be for September, Labor Day weekend, and it will be held in Golf Park. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Red. Any other comments from the council? Moving right along. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the April 23, 2019 regular meeting. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilwoman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the regular town council meeting of the town of Silver City of April 23rd, 2019.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second? Councilor Benson.
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion as stated.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public input. I see that two people signed up, Dave Crosley and Kevin Lechner. So, Mr. Crosley, if you would come up first, and then Mr. Lechner, if you could follow him. Is that microphone on?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes. Hello, members of the town council. Hello, everybody else. Excuse me. I am here speaking specifically to the Labor Day or the Memorial Day events coming up for Blues Festival. It is on the agenda to vote for or against a proposed beer garden that would be adjacent to the already approved beer garden at the Blues Festival. I don't think this is a good idea. Primarily speaking, on the safety of the people at the Blues Fest. One of the things that we are trained to do is monitor and measure the amount of alcohol that people imbibe. That's a difficult task at best. When you throw into that an outdoor event lasting 3 days in the hot sun, it makes that job even more difficult. Having another purveyor of alcohol in such close proximity to the existing pavilion creates a lot more of an issue than I think could reasonably be taken care of by any single group. I don't think that there's enough outside force, be it police, be it other groups, to really keep an eye on this. That is my primary concern for this, is public safety. Secondary, my concern is the Blues Festival has come a long way in its time. I don't know that setting a precedent that would allow people to be able to take advantage of the facilities that the Blues Festival and the Memphis Regions Arts Council pay a great deal of money for is necessarily a good idea for the future of the Blues Fest. Those are my two primary concerns. And really, that's what I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lechner?
I'm going to be speaking on the same issue about the proposed permit. One of the things that's important to know is that 30 to 40...
Could you not duplicate what was said before, if you've got something new to say?
Okay, I am speaking in opposition to the public celebration permit for number 12, letter B. Is that good? And the reasons I want to concur with Dave with the little code about the safety concerns. The other part of it is The Members Region Arts Council and the Town of Silver City invested a lot of money to produce this event. Vendors are paying a substantial amount of money to have the opportunity to earn more money. That's 30 to 40% of our budget. Having auxiliary beer gardens and vendor spaces will definitely cause those vendors to not come back. There's a cheaper place for them to go to. And again, it sets a bad precedent that everyone will have a beer garden, everyone will have vendors, and the festival will not be able to generate the revenue that it needs to break even. I think conversations that I've had with Alex Brown in the past 2 years, we've lost a substantial amount of money. Last year we broke even, or we lost about $2,000. As a nonprofit, we're just hoping to break even, and this will impact that a great deal, our ability to do that. So that's all that I have.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is reports. The first report will be given by Gary Staley. Is he here tonight?
No, Mayor, because of the length of the agenda, him and the students from the high school asked to go to the next meeting.
So we'll go to the next item, okay. The next report will be a traffic and safety invention idea by 7th grader Clarissa Donnelly. We're ready for your presentation.
Ella brought me along as her sidekick, so I'll introduce her and then pass things over. I'm also the one who's carrying her invention. But I'm Mark Cantrell. I'm a teacher over at Aldo Leopold Charter School, and I had the pleasure of teaching Ella in 6th grade. She's a 7th grader now. She is without a doubt the most likely kid to end up actually working for NASA, probably in all of Silver City, but certainly at our school. And I think you'll see she also has a great mind for civic engineering. This is an idea she came up with completely on her own. It wasn't a school assignment. She saw a problem, and what is very typical of Ella, when she sees a problem, she doesn't come to you with the problem, she comes with a solution. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn things over to her, and I'll stand off to the side. We may need to bring this close eventually.
Hello, my name is Ella Donnelly. And
Could you speak into the microphone?
Hello, my name is Ella Donnelly, and I'm from Aldo. I'm a 7th grader in Aldo. I have an idea that could solve a big problem in our community. My invention could save lives. It lights up when a car is around the corner at the bottom of a hill. This device would run on solar, so it's not expensive and does not need much maintenance. It would use a magnetic strip in the road to send signals to other drivers that a car is coming up or around hills or corners, preventing accidents and saving lives. I would like to build a prototype and implement it in the future. I hope that Silver City would consider my idea, and thank you.
Ella, I'm going to put her on the spot if you don't mind. Can you tell why you came up with this particular idea and this particular hill?
On my road to school, when I'm driving, me and my mom would always see this car just zoom past us on top of the hill when we're going to drive, but it's very dangerous because you could possibly hit the car and it would be very bad.
Wonderful. It looks like there's a lot of fine detail. Would you mind just kind of bringing that up and bring it in front of the council so we can see the detail? Show all the council, yeah.
Show what happens when a vehicle comes up over.
Yeah.
So if somebody drive up that way, then the person would go over the magnetic strip and signal the light to notify this person that there's a car at the bottom.
This is a little wall in the road that you notice this is the problem.
With the hills and stuff. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Consider fire.
Make sure you show that to Mr. Brown. Say, can I wait for the 152 drive across the black range?
Do any of the council want to make comments about what you just, Councilor Kano?
Thank you, Mayor. This is fantastic. I love it. I don't know if the audience could hear, but her prototype has to do with Little Walnut Road, and all of us drive Little Walnut, so you all know this is an excellent idea. So, Mr. Brown, I hope you can find a way to make this happen.
Councilor Ray? Councilor Benson?
And I was going to say, at some point, I think this is really great for different places in town, and I think that it should also be used like on Highway 15, I mean, you name it, state highways could use this, especially going around, if you drive through the Black Range like I do. There are people that think that they should just be driving on the other side of the road where you're coming around the corner and they're in your lane. So that would actually be a great warning, sort of, not just in town, but out on state highways and things like that. So really innovative, really pleased that you showcased that, Ella. That's a really amazing idea.
Councilor Smith?
Thank you. I'm always really interested in prototyping, so it would be really interesting to me as a previous college professor who did this kind of stuff with classes to know what kind of materials you think might be really needed. It sounds like magnetic stripping and a way to get it to light, and then a light that's more light. But I really want to encourage you to explore, maybe work with someone to develop a prototyping procedure to work with Mr. Brown and his staff on, because I think this is a really great idea. I drive Little Walnut too, so thank you.
Any other comments? Councilor Benson?
I just want to say, Ella, one of the things about Silver City historically is we're a town of firsts. So it's pretty fabulous to have a young person in the town also potentially be one of the first for something that's a great safety idea. So this is the place to do innovation. This is the place for us to work on it, and hopefully I recommend following what Councilor Amos has said, to work with someone to do it, because I think that this is a brilliant idea, not just the fact that it lights up, but just brilliant. Incredible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
We talked about the city, so we can try to figure out some way of testing this out and maybe do a pilot project for them. Find a street in town that it would work on and
Thank you.
see what happens.
They say necessity is the driver for invention, and thank you for seeing the problem and coming up with a possible solution. Next on the agenda is a report by the Silver City Tourism update by Joni Griffin, CEO and founder of Sunny 505.
So before I get started, I just want to talk to Ella for a second. Ella. Hello. My firm represents Spaceport America, and I don't know if you saw the announcement that Richard Branson did on Friday that they're moving 100 jobs to Las Cruces, and space tourism is about to get started, and they are beefing up their internship program. So I just like to give you my card and see if we can't somehow get you connected to Spaceport, and because they're going to be doing some amazing things, and I think you have a very bright future. So I digress for a second because I wanted to grab her before she leaves.
Got 40 to 15 minutes.
Okay. So we've been on contract. Sunny 505 has been your tourism marketing company since August, and I've got to tell you, my entire company has fallen in love with Silver City. So we had our company retreat here 3 weeks ago, and we spent 2 days here, and the entire staff got immersed in Silver City. My instruction to everybody was they had to buy a piece of art, and 100% of my staff members bought art. So we're more in love than we were with the city when we started in August. I also wanted to introduce Julie Ennis. I think a lot of you know her. She's on contract with us and handling our social media. So we've had a lot of really great results, and I want to show you some of the work that we've been doing and where we're headed. So the first thing I want to show is a video that was produced. I think everybody knows that the town applied for a grant last year with the New Mexico Tourism Department, $46,000 grant. Part of it was used for a video and photo shoot, and so this video was shot in October. Most of you are not going to actually ever see this, so that's one of the things I want to talk about is you are not our target market. So we're spending the lion's share of the advertising in the Tucson area, in the El Paso, Las Cruces area, and in the Albuquerque area. This ad is running on social media and in digital channels, and it's also in the Tucson and the El Paso and the Albuquerque airports. So if you're in those airports, you might see it. So hopefully I am going to be able to get the technology to work, so bear with me. And hopefully we can get this to play.
We came to the Black Range on like a 99-degree summer day, and then we got into the valley here, and it was like 15 degrees cooler, and there was a parade in the town. We were like, this is either not real or perfect. It's kind of this like bird-end little gem tucked away off the highway. I think it's really cool to stumble into. You're driving for 2 hours and haven't like seen a town, and you get here, and it's really colorful, and people making things. There's a lot of different mediums that people are working within, and I think that is, for me, always inspiring to be around. It's the kind of town, it's small enough that you can spend a whole day just wandering around, and then you can get out of town and go hiking, within 10 minutes, you're at these fantastic hiking trails, or go farther afield and find hot springs. One thing I love about New Mexico and about Tucson, there's not just one story being told here.
So that's a video. That's a 60-second. We also have a 30-second, 15-second, and 10 seconds, depending on where it's being shown. And I believe everybody got this handout as well. So our objectives for 2019 were to increase lodgers tax revenue by 3% or more with first-time and repeat travelers, and we measure that by the monthly lodgers tax report, which is a metric that's consistent with the Travel Industry of America's projections nationally. So that association was projecting for fiscal year 2019 a growth of 2.8%, so we rounded up to 3%. Right now we're on track to hit 10.78%. So it's really great. Craft and place news stories quarterly, which we are doing. I'm very excited to hear about the Labor Day event. So, Counselor, I hope that you will take my contact info. I think you have it, and send me the information as that gets finalized, because we can certainly get that out to the regional media. They love that. One of the big success stories that we had is we did a piece on birding. Birding is huge here, as I'm sure you're aware, and the New York Times picked it up. So that was really fabulous. So we continue to write news stories and get it out there and keep promoting all that's great about Silver City. And then showcase the New Mexico True approved creative for our primary and secondary demographics. So we've worked very closely with the tourism department. We've also applied for another tourism grant for this coming fiscal year, and we should know, they say, by the end of May how much we get. So, and in case you're not aware, the tourism grants, the way it works is basically we are paying 50 cents for every dollar that we get. So that $46,000 grant that was approved for the town of Silver City was actually about $100,000 worth of advertising. So that's really great. It's a great way to stretch the marketing dollars. So what we've been doing, public relations, as I've already talked about. Print advertising, we've been advertising in Tucson publications, in El Paso publications, in Albuquerque publications, and New Mexico Magazine, primarily for print. We've been running a lot of digital and social ads. The world has really moved to the online space. I'm sure all of us in this room spend a lot of time online, and so those ads follow people around wherever they are on the internet. Pandora Radio is another venue that we've been using, and we've been running Pandora in the Tucson, El Paso, and Albuquerque markets. Hopefully everybody's seen a copy of the visitor's guide that we redid. Has anybody not seen it? I didn't bring any with me, but they're at the visitor center, so we completely redid the visitor's guide, updated it with new information, and we've gotten really great feedback on that. Working in conjunction with the tourism department, we now have new video assets and new photo assets that we're using in all of our advertising. And then we are working very closely with the New Mexico Tourism Department to leverage the New Mexico True branding and that tourism grant. If anybody reads New Mexico Magazine, does anybody here read it? We had a huge presence in the last couple of issues, so we're on their radar, which is really, really great. And as they continue to expand their outreach, we will be a part of that. So this talks again about where we've been advertising. And again, the airports, we were in Albuquerque, Phoenix, Tucson, and El Paso airports. Missed the Tucson there on that slide. StackAdapt Video, this is one of the venues that the tourism department is using, is a vendor that shows the video that I just showed you. So far 125,000 people have seen that video, again in our target markets. We also have digital on Pandora, social media, Facebook and Instagram, which is what Julie's doing so effectively. So far, we've sent out 7 news releases, and we actually just sent one in April, too, so since I didn't update this before, I did this. The April one was about the Blues Festival, so for the Blues people that are here, and we're getting some coverage on that. So in October, we did a news release on Silver City being named one of the best places to retire. In November, we did a holiday piece. In December, we talked about winter getaways. In January, creating new memories for the new year. In February, we did the burning piece, which got picked up by the New York Times. And February, we did the 1 Million Bones. And, oh, there's March. Sorry, there's the Silver City Blues Festival. April is talking about summer getaways. So of those 7 news releases, we've had 101 news outlets pick up those stories. And a total impression of the news outlets was over 21 million people saw it. So that's really fabulous. Digital ads. So the digital ads that we're running, we currently have 3.3 million impressions. 9,032 people from seeing those ads have clicked through to the Visit Silver City website. That's a click-through rate of 0.27. What's really impressive here is the industry average is 0.05 to 0.1. So you can see we are dramatically higher than that, which I believe is because of the beauty of the ads, the beauty of the photography that we're showing in the ads that are compelling people to take action and click on the website. And as all of us who do any traveling, typically the first thing you do is you go to a website and then you start to plan your trip. So that's what we're trying to do. Through March, we had 790,000 impressions on Pandora. Again, in the visitor side, we've also developed a tourism newsletter that we're sending out monthly now, and we began that in April. The first one went out. We have a database that we put together with the visitor center. So these are people who have come to the visitor center and given us their email or gone to our website and given us their email. So they're opted in. We have over 5,000 names. We have not done anything with them prior, so now we are reaching out to them, letting them know about all the great things, about the festivals that are coming, about all the great art, about the outdoor activities. The first one that went out in April had a 31% open rate, which is almost, it's more than double the industry average of 17.85%, so that's really great as well. Again, I think it's because Silver City is fabulous and people are interested. The new assets, and then, sorry, I said 10.78. It's 10.47 is our anticipated lodger's tax for this fiscal year, and we'll see as the year winds down. Our social media ads, so in addition to what Julie's doing, which is posting, we're also running ads, and so far those ads have reached almost 200,000 people, and 934 of them have clicked through to our website. On the organic, this is what Julie is doing. So there's a difference between what's paid and then what's being posted. So through Julie's work, we had almost 280,000 impressions, reaching 194,639 people, 7,820 clicks, and 508 new page likes. So you can see the power there. So I'm just going to sit here and toot Julie's horn, but versus paid versus organic. And it's just like anything, people want to hear what other people are saying has more credibility and believability than an ad. So you can see that just from the difference in the paid versus the organic. And then on our Instagram organic, we have a reach of 87,548, and we're up to 11,066 page likes. So hopefully all of you like us on Facebook. So the small print, I won't bore you with, it's in your packets, but that's the activities that we've been doing throughout the year, and that will continue through this fiscal year, which ends in June. And that's pretty much it. I'm under my 15 minutes. So I want to open it up to questions.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Bedison?
Thank you for the report. I greatly appreciate it, greatly appreciate the material that you put in our packet. I have one recommendation. As a professional registered archaeologist, may I recommend that you don't call archaeological sites, such as the Gila Cliff Dwellings or historic sites or artifacts, treasures, because that gives the impression of treasure hunting, also known as looting in this area. And it would be better to come up with something about, the past and the present meet in, in Silver City or in Grant County, because that's where you have people in the picture. But it kind of, as an archaeologist, we try not to use words that promote something that
is negative.
Would be negative, that would ultimately then harm our cultural resources. So that's just a recommendation that I have.
Thank you, very much appreciated, and I will make sure my creative department knows that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Kano?
Question. All right, is your firm responsible for the billboards that are up along I-25?
We are not.
No? Okay, thanks.
I think those might be, to check, they might be being placed by Grant County, but they're not ours. Or they could have been done a long time ago, and they're just there because they haven't re-rented the space.
Any other comments, or Councilman Smith?
Just one quick comment, and that is that I very much like the new collection of photographs and stuff that you have. Quite beautiful and much more diverse.
Thank you.
Councilor Kano?
Actually, I have another question. Hiring this firm took the place of each individual organization having a piece of the largest tax pie. So I'm kind of curious to see if you've done any research of each of those events. Are they having more people come in for those events now that you've taken over the advertising? Or is there anything being studied about that?
There is not.
We continue to contact with SkyWest Media, and they are doing the surveys for this year. It's a follow-up on what we did last year, and we're still going to survey it again to see how the impact of what's happening with the advertising, as well as we did offer $5,000 grants to the events so that they could use for direct advertising. They could have contracted with 505, but most of them didn't, I don't think. And they could have contracted with other advertising organizations. That was the intent for that, so they could do specifically advertising for their event. But we are doing measuring.
One is the anecdotal thing. We were here for our company retreat, April 26th and 27th, so it was a Wednesday and Thursday, and we stayed at the Murray Hotel, and the manager there told us that they were up 85% over this time last year, so that was a positive. And I gotta tell you, there was an archaeological conference going on that week. I was at it. Okay, so I know that the Palace and the Murray were totally sold out, but there were people everywhere. So that was just really great to see.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much for that informative report. Mr. Brown, when I spoke to you earlier, you didn't have any staff reports. Has that changed? Okay. I'd also like to say that it's an honor to have New Mexico State Representative Rudy Martinez and his wife Holly here with us tonight. Thank you, Representative, for being here with us. Next on the agenda, under item 9A, public hearings, entitled "The Approval/Disapproval of a Restaurant Beer and Wine Liquor License with On-Premises Consumption Only, with Sunday Sales by the Drink and Patio Service." Application number 1118720. Name of the applicant, Leah Allen, LLC, DBA, Adobe Springs Cafe, 4109 North Silver Street, Silver City, New Mexico. Proposed location, 614 North Bullitt Street, Silver City, New Mexico. The hearing will be conducted as follows. The town council will serve as the hearing board, and I, as mayor, will be the presiding officer. The town, there will be a brief presentation on the application. Then the proponent of the application shall present his or her case. Next will come witnesses in support of the proponent's case. The proponent or witnesses may then be questioned by the hearing board. The presiding officer will then ask the proponent if that concludes his or her case in chief, and will state that the proponent and his or her witnesses shall remain available to be further questioned by the hearing board or by opponents to this appeal/application. Following the close of the proponent's case, witnesses in opposition to the proponent's case shall be permitted to testify, during the course of which the witnesses may address questions to any previous witness, but such questions shall be made through the presiding officer. The presiding officer shall have the sole discretion in directing the questions for response, considering whether the question is relevant, is cumulative to other testimony, or is otherwise inappropriate. Have the members of this hearing board had ex parte discussions with any person regarding the subject matter of this hearing, or had any communication from any party to this case? There being none, will all parties and witnesses intending to testify who intend to present testimony or who will be available for questioning, please rise to be sworn in by the town clerk.
Okay, please repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jennifer Cook,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that the testimony I'm about to give
that the testimony I am about to give
in the matter before this council
in the matter before this council
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth,
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth,
under penalty of perjury.
under penalty of perjury.
Thank you. You can just stay there.
Thank you. You may present your testimony or your case.
Okay. My name's Jennifer Cook. My husband and I own Adobe Springs Cafe, and we are in the long process of moving locations. So part of that process is to reapply for a beer and wine license at the new location because they are not transferable. So we currently have one. We're just reapplying in a different location.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the council? There was no other witness sworn in, so I'm assuming there was no opposition to this application. Mr. Scavron?
That is correct. You make your decision based upon the testimony and the witnesses that are appearing in front of you.
Thank you. Does this conclude your presentation?
It does.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion? Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve of a restaurant beer and wine liquor license with on-premises consumption only with Sunday sales, by the drink and patio service. Application number 1118720. Name of applicant, Leah Allen, LLC, DBA, Adobe Springs Cafe, 4109 North Silver Street, Silver City, New Mexico. Proposed location, 614 North Bullitt Street, Silver City, New Mexico, 88061.
Thank you, Councilor Ray. Do I hear a second? Councilor Kano? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please, Ann.
Councilor Kano? Aye. Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Amos Smith? Aye. Councilor Madison?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is item number 10, under unfinished business, is a budget discussion and council direction for the fiscal year 2019-2020. Mr. Brown?
Mayor and Council, we discussed this a little bit at the last council meeting. On your first page, I'm showing the revenue projections for the gross receipts taxes from 2019 to 2020. As you can see, there's almost zero growth. There's very little growth, but that growth is actually going to be part of the phase-out of the times. So basically, we have a 0%, I'm trying to have 0% increase in the general fund. Okay, so we're going from 9.439 to 9.472 is the projections. Right now, we're about 7% above projections from last year. A lot of that has to do with some construction, but one thing that I've started to recognize is that retail has actually been up substantially in this last fiscal year. And so I would rather be more conservative and not project that increase into next year, especially considering all of what's happening with hold harmless and everything else that we have to face. So if you look at page 2, our major sources of revenue for the fund, of course, general fund. I'm going to talk about general fund, which provides the majority of the services for the town of Silver City. We're going from, as you can see, our largest source of revenue is gross receipts taxes by far. 8.4 million of the 9.47 million gross receipts taxes goes into the general fund to help provide those services, followed a long ways behind by property taxes, which is about $630,000, and then franchise fees, which is $370,000, and then charges for services, which is about $186,000, for a total projection of $9.691 million for the general fund. Expenses, as you see, I tried to keep them very close to what we were spending this year. I was able to do it fairly easy because we had quite a few retirements, because our biggest cost in the general fund is personnel cost. It's about 82%. We had quite a few retirements. We had a little bit of turnover. So when that happens, of course, we go from the higher paid salaries to entry-level salaries that happen, and so that allowed us to do this. As well as, I just finished negotiations with the police union and ASME union. Those agreements will be brought to you at the next council meeting. But what I finished with ASME today. So what I was willing to agree to, what is in the budget, and we're within within that price range for those increases that we're looking at for them. The only changes, there are very little changes from last year to this year. A total expenditure increase of about $47,000 out of $9.7 million, so it's fairly insignificant. So we're looking about $65,000 beginning cash balance, $9.7 million in revenue, $9.6 million in expenditures, with an ending cash balance of $943,000. Compared to the county is required to keep a 3/12 reserve, and that's because they rely primarily on, they have multiple sources of revenue, but the largest is property tax and the land stuff, and then they get gross receipts taxes as well. But property tax, as you know, comes in mainly, the two main times a year that they receive their sources, large injections of revenue is November and then March. So they've got to keep that extra 2/3 to help the cash flow situation throughout the year. We only have to maintain a 1/12 reserve. We're about $140,000 above that with what we've budgeted so far this year. Again, going back to the fact that what I told you is I'm trying to keep everything very similar to what we have. If you look at all the departments, they're within a percent or two above or below, except for the museum, and that's because we budgeted a secretarial position in the general fund that we usually get reimbursed from the Museum Society, so that will be offset. So it does look like an expense increase, which it technically isn't, because we got a revenue increase to offset it. Do you have any questions on any of these?
Also, for purpose of discussion, we can discuss between ourselves without going through the chair, so do it in an informal discussion way.
Okay, and then next, you'll see the water sewer fund with the 30 cent per 1,000 gallons increase, which on average is $1 increase to the average user, consumer in town. So the average consumption per household is about 3,000 gallons. So we're talking 90 cents plus tax, we're close to $1. So with that, you'll see that everything is from, revenues are down a little bit from what I had projected last year, even with the projected rate increase, and that's still because I'm looking at the consumption decrease that we've seen over the last, especially this last year. We've seen it over the last, since 2011, where we went from a total consumption of our total water rights of about 61% down to where we're at right now. We're probably going to meet about 48% this year. So, that's leaving a lot of available water rights available for long-term use, growth, whatever, for the long term. Do you have any questions on any of these? Yes, Councilor.
Ms. Brown, I guess, I just want to, I think it's a good thing that we're reducing, consumption rates, but I think that sometimes people need to be reminded that we still have maintenance and folks that work there, that we're doing the salaries out of this account as well, but the maintenance issues don't go away in terms of...
The biggest, those don't go away.
We still have the system to deal with.
We have a system that needs to be maintained. We always try to be proactive with our system and do water line replacements in areas that we know that we've had problems. And before they become major, we try to replace those areas. If we get grants, for instance, like the Colonias grant that we just received, and we've got match from the Water Sewer Fund. I think the one big change this year is that we had some extra debt service on our 2014 A and B bonds. Is $140,000 more this year than it was last year. It's going to go back down next year. It's just trying to fit that in this year. So we've had the decrease in consumption. I try to keep operating expenses at the same, but we've got to cover that debt service for this 1 year. So I don't want to push rates up to cover that entire cost this year because it's going away next year. So I'm trying to work with it this year to try to get through this year.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. The next page, you'll see the water rates. This is the Appendix A that I will show you when I bring the final budget to you. These are the water rates for in-town, out-of-town, all the water associations, as well as the sewer and wastewater rates for in-town and out-of-town. None of them have changed except for the city. Well, not the city. In-town, out-of-town, and the water associations all were increased by 30 cents per 1,000 gallons. Okay. Next is the sanitation fund. We're seeing a little bit of a decrease, about 3%, because that's based on current revenue projections. We also had a decrease in transfers out, which are debt service, so that actually zeroes out. And if you look at the operating for the sanitation fund, it's actually at 0%, so it's very small. So, I'm trying to keep everything close to current status as it is this year, trying to get through the next couple of years, because of legislation that was passed this year. I really think that the sales tax on internet sales is going to give us a big boost, where we won't have to pass any tax increases, knock on wood, in the long term. And then plus, we've also got a lot of operating property tax increments that we can pass, but I'm going to stay away from those because that only affects Silver City town resident property owners, and because Silver City is the hub of this region, it's not fair that the local residents pay for everybody's use of our facilities. Gas tax is lodger's tax, there's an increase of about $22,000, and I feel that that's actually going to be very conservative. What we're going to see this year, we've got budgeted, $291,000. We're going to hit about the 311, what I'm budgeting for next year. So again, to be conservative, I'm just budgeting what we're going to actually receive this next year. And then we are going to see some increases in, actually, because the contract for 7505 is going to be paid directly out of the lodger's tax fund. You're seeing a huge increase on professional services. Usually what we do is we transfer out to lodger's tax promotional, and then it's paid from there. But I don't see a need to do that because of it's a direct professional service out of lodger's tax. Gas tax, which is the next largest one, which we get both, we get 2 cents on the sale of every gallon of gas, and then we've committed 1/8 of gross receipts tax. 1/16 of gross receipts taxes that is going to that fund. So we're looking about having $431,000, up about $30,000 from this year, and everything's going into maintenance of this. And so, this, when we've got between 72 and 75 miles of paved road in town, $430,000 is very minimal maintenance for that amount of road, but we do the best that we can. And with that, on the last page, you'll see that the beginning and ending cash balances for each of the funds, we're doing very well, except for the water sewer fund. We usually try to keep a 1/12 reserve in there so that we can do preventative maintenance or any emergency construction or things like that. Even with the 30% per 1,000 gallons, it's going to be really hard for me to make the 1/12, so about $52,000 short of that. I think we're going to be fine this next year, because I don't want to increase it more than the 30 cents. We can increase it more to meet the 1/12, but I don't see that it's necessary. So I don't recommend it. And with that, the total budget is about $32 million. I'm just showing the funds that we actually deal with on a day-to-day basis, basically. The rest of them are special revenue funds, capital funds, which are mostly grant funds for capital projects, and then trusted agency, which are money that we're holding for other entities or ourselves. And with that, I'm open for any questions.
Councilor Edison?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that sometimes when folks like this, like you said, these are things that we use on a daily basis, whereas the other funds that you mentioned are restricted. They're only for those specifically designated purposes in most cases.
Yes.
So I think it's important that they know that we don't necessarily can't take those funds and move them into the general fund, because those are restricted purpose use only.
Yes, they are.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Brown, how bad are water lines and sewer lines throughout the city? Are they in good operating?
Actually, yes, with all the CDBG projects that we've been doing over the last 15 years, we've been able to replace water and sewer lines, well, primarily water lines, in the Brewer Hill and Chihuahua Hill area. I believe in the Chihuahua Hill area, we've got one more phase and we'll have replaced all the water lines on Chihuahua Hill. And then, you know how we do a water line replacement, then we follow it with the street project to fix the road after we've done that construction. So it's taken us a while to do it. Those lines are the best, are the newest. Some of the other areas that we've had to focus on are in Indian Hills. Although they are not some of the older lines, they weren't installed using best practices in a lot of cases, so we have a lot of water breaks in those areas. So those are the areas that we have, although it's not in city limits, it's part of our water infrastructure, so we do replace it just like it's in the city, in the town. So we've been out, we've done a few of those. As you know, we just did the $3 million sewer extension out on Ridge Road. We've got that, we were awarded phase 1, so we're going to do from Highway 90 to Pheasant. That will be the first phase of that project for water, the street construction. But I think we're in good shape in most cases. I think once we finish Chihuahua Hill, we need to start focusing on the not the older parts of town, but the areas of town that we have identified already that need work. And so we'll start looking at those areas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Okay, thank you.
We finished with this? I'd like to move for a short break, please.
Got a request for a short break. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, take a short break, about 10 minutes.
Aye.
Don't worry, sir.
I'm calling our meeting back to order. Next item on the agenda is item 11, which is approval of the consent agenda. There are 12 listed items that we will address, and this is normally a routine matter, and we don't discuss them separately, but all as a group. If there needs to be discussion on one particular one, we have to pull it out and address it separately. So, here we go. Agenda item 11A is the approval/disapproval of 12 public celebration permit applications and waiver of NMSA 1978 60-6B-10 for alcohol sales near a church for the second annual Silver City Wine Festival to be held at Golf Park on July 13 through 14, 2019. Sponsor, New Mexico Wine License Holder Information. License number 60016, number 1. License number 60016, owner Tony and Mary Ann Black, DBA Black's Smuggler Winery, 25 Winery Road, Bosque, New Mexico, 87006. 2. License number 60026, owner Robert C. Jamelio, DBA Jamelio Vineyards, LLC 30, Camino Napales, Berlin, New Mexico 87002. 3. License number 6148, owner La Esperanza Vineyard, LLC, DBA La Esperanza Vineyard, LLC, 100 De La O San Lorenzo, New Mexico 88803,
Straight.
88041. 4, license number 60020, owner Samuel Aragon, DBA Los Nuevos Niños Winery, LLC, P.O. Box 26, Mora, New Mexico, 87732. 5, license number 6091, owner Paolo de Andrew, DBA Luna Rosa Winery, P.O. Box 1507, Deming, New Mexico. 6, license number 60021, owner Jasper Riddle, DBA Noisy Water Winery, 2342, Suttereth Drive, Ruidosa, New Mexico, 88345. 7, license number 60012, owner Bradley Shattuck, DBA Shattuck Vineyard, LLC, 1511 Ocotillo, Truth and Consequences, New Mexico, 87901. 8, license number 60036, owner Sean Sheehan, DBA Sheehan Winery, 1544 Sierra Vista Road, Southwest, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87105. 9, license number 60017, owner Sombra, help me out, Councilor Antigua Winery, DBA Sombrero Antigua Winery, P.O. Box 671, Chamberino, New Mexico, 88027. 10, license number 6130, owner Florent Buscombs, DBA St. Clair Winery, 1325, Dabaca Winery, Deming, New Mexico, 88030. 11, license number 60048, owner Tim Lopez, DBA Wicked Creations Winery, 7209 Beck Drive, Northeast Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87109. 12, license number 6085, owner David and Marcia Arnold, DBA Wines of the San Juan, 233 Highway 511, Blanco, New Mexico, 87412. Is there anyone here to make that request? Please step to the mic, turn it on, and identify yourself, please.
Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Christopher Doblay. I'm the Executive Director of New Mexico Wine and Grape Growers Association. And we are the applicants here on behalf of all 12 winery license holders.
Any questions or comments from the council?
Mayor, Council, can I say something? I've been working with Mr. Gobley, I'm sorry. I've got an accent. And so what we're going to do this year is we're going to actually fence in the entire park with 6-foot fencing, metal fencing. We're going to fence off part of Main Street for food vendors on the street. We're going to fence in part of 12th Street as well for food vendors. And we're going to have one access point with 30 by 30 tent that the town owns on 12th Street. That will be the access into the park for the event. The wine growers will all be serving their alcohol within the park, whether it be on the grass or on the basketball court. And so this is actually the first time we're going to do this, because if we're going to grow and being able to make any of our events sustainable, this is the way we're going to have to do it. And it's the Wine Growers Association who came to me and came up with a very good idea on being able to do it. And you've got a map of how we're looking at doing it. It also helped us move forward, and as you know, every year we have problems with the Blues Festival and having tents on the ground. And the earlier presentation that we were going to have from the high school was they've come up with some weights for the tents that are held above the grass, so it won't affect the grass. And so we're trying a bunch of new things this year, and I really appreciate their help and their ideas coming and helping us try to get this thing going, because I really think it's going to help all the events that we have in the town.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Councilor Bedison?
Just a real quick question. I noticed that you've got stars throughout, and those are the floating sort of security that are unarmed, correct? Within the perimeter.
That is correct. So we'll be working with Western New Mexico University as the security, and they will be posted at the front entry point to work with us on the checking of IDs and wristbanding, and then you'll also have floating or roving security who will be observing and monitoring the attendees of the festival.
And then I have one other quick question. It may be that I just don't see it on here and someone can tell me. I noticed that you have PT for portable toilets, but I don't understand where they are. Are they within the fencing, or will people need to exit the fencing to use those facilities?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman, the intention is to have those fenced into the facility on the back end of the existing built toilet facilities, and so the fence line should be on the exterior of the sidewalk, and these will be placed on the back side of the building, so readily accessible to anyone in the event.
Thank you. I just now saw it after that was mentioned. That was kind of a little light right there, but thank you. So Mr. Brown, this is something that we're hoping that might be something that can be used in the future in fencing off the whole park with the 6-foot fencing.
Yes, the intention is if this works with this event, we might hopefully be able to use it with the event that Councilor Ray is planning, and then hopefully take it to events like the Blues Festival, which are very big, and so we can start charging a fee for entrance, and we can ensure that alcohol is in one place, no matter where it's at. Because right now, to have any of these events, they have to be heavily sponsored because they can't charge anything. And so we're working with them, and I'm really looking forward to this. I think if it really works out, I think it might not be a bad idea if the town looks at purchasing the fencing ourselves, so we can use it for the future events. Just like we have worked with Freeport McMahon on the tents.
Right.
The tents have been a huge success throughout the entire community. We can do this for our park and other events in town.
And this also kind of goes along with what we've been talking about the expansion of Golf Park at some point. So it seems to all be moving in the same direction, and it's nice to have at least this first try, and I appreciate the wine growers working with the town on this. So, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you. Do I hear a motion? Councilor Summers?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve of 12 public celebration permit applications and waiver of NMSA 1978 60-60-10 for alcohol sales near the church for the second annual Silver City Wine Festival to be held at Golf Park on July 13th and 14th, 2019. Sponsored Mexico Wine. License holder information. Number 1, license numbers 60016, owner Tony and Mary Ann Black, do business as Black Smugglers Winery, 25 Winery Road, Bosque, New Mexico, 87006. Number 2, license number 60026, owner Robert C. Jaramillo, do business as Jaramillo Vineyards LLC, 30 Camino Nopales, Belen, New Mexico, 87002. Number 3, license number 6148, owner La Esperanza Vineyard LLC, doing business as La Esperanza Vineyard LLC, 100 de la O, San Lorenzo, New Mexico, 88041. Number 4, license number 60020, owner Samuel Aragon, doing business as Las Nueve Ninas Winery LLC, P.O. Box 26, Mora, New Mexico, 87732. Number 5, license number 6091, owner Paulo De Andrew, doing business as Luna Rosa Winery, P.O. Box 1507, Denny, New Mexico. Number 6, license number 60021, owner Jasper Riddle, doing business as Noisy Water Winery, 2342 Sudrick Drive, Rio Rosa, New Mexico, 88345. Number 7, license number 60012, owner Bradley Shattuck, doing business as Shattuck Vineyard LLC, 1511 Ocotillo, Sugar Consequences, New Mexico, 87901. Number 8, license number 60036, owner Sean Sheehan, doing business at Sheehan Winery, 1544 Cerro Vista Road, Southwest, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87105. Number 9, license number 60017, owner Sombra Antigua Winery, doing business at Sombra Antigua Winery, P.O. Box 671, Camarino, New Mexico, 88027. Number 10, license number 6130, owner Florence Vescombs, doing business at St. Clair Winery, 1325 The Vaca Winery, Dunedin, New Mexico, 88030. License number 60048, owner Tim Lopez, number 11. License number 60048, owner Tim Lopez, doing business as Wicked Creations Winery, 7209 Beck Drive, Northeast, Albuquerque, Mexico, 87109. And number 12, license number 6085, owner David Marshall Arnold, doing business as Wines of the San Juan, 233 Highway 511, Blanco, New Mexico, 87412.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second? Council Ray?
I'll second that motion as read.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next item is new business. Under new business 12A is the approval/disapproval of a special dispenser permit application for the Kneeling Nun Bike Race and Q's Southern Bistro anniversary on May 24 through 25, 2019 at 101 West College Avenue, Silver City, New Mexico, with alcohol service on May 24th from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. and on May 25 from 12:30 p.m. to... I've got that wrong in my notes. What's the time on 11:30, 12:30?
PM
Is
to
that
11
a.m.?
p.m. No, 12:30 p.m.
12:30 p.m. to
11:30 p.m.
11:30 p.m. Okay. License holder information, Dahl Enterprises, LLC, DBA Q's Southern Bistro, LLC, license number 28098, 101 West College Avenue, Silver City, New Mexico, 88061. And I believe Mr. Anthony Quintana will make this presentation.
Yes, sir. My name is Anthony Quintana, and I'm the food and beverage director for Q7 Bistro LLC. And this is my dad, Ronald Quintana, who's the owner of Q7 Bistro LLC. I don't know if it makes a difference, but it's a Kneeling Nun bike run, not race. And then the time on the note that it says from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Friday, and then from 12:30 to 11:30 p.m. is correct. On the 25th. He's no longer a sponsor. No. Joe's no longer a sponsor. We're the sponsor. She's on the bistro unless he's the sponsor.
I thought, so you're going to be the sponsor and the alcohol server?
We've been the sponsor. We've always been the sponsor.
And what is the nature of this run?
What do you mean?
Well, describe it.
The bike run is a run that we've been doing for the past 9 years, where we basically take donations or the part of the ticket sales and give to, one year we've given it to a softball team, one year we gave it to a family that was in need of surgery. Other years we've broken it down into different churches and given them to them throughout the community. That's pretty much it. We get prizes and stuff like that. There's anybody could get any of the prize, so anybody that enters our facility receives a ticket, whether they pay, don't pay, whether they're part of the bike run or not part of the bike run, part of the car show or the bike show. They're able to get something they'll have to pay in order to win anything of value. It's just of celebrating our way to give back to anybody that comes through our doors.
So is this, do you view this as a community event?
I view it, yes, as a community event. We've been doing it for the past, this will be our 10th Blues Fest, our 9th bike run. As far as alcohol is concerned, we have been serving alcohol previously with our brewer's license, which is Burning Iron LLC, and that we did that for the first, we've been doing it for about 6 years, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. The last 2, we've been doing it with our full liquor license.
And where the participants come from? Are they all from Silver City?
From Silver City, from Tucson, from El Paso, from Albuquerque, from Hatch. We've had a lot of families. We've had one particular family, and it's about 20 of them, that they show up every year and they come to the bike run. They're actually really grateful that we're doing it. As well as I've had communication, and we started doing it initially and planning it with Fame Account after the first year that had been open. So I would kind of let her know exactly what we've been doing, our agenda for the day, what time the bikes were leaving and all that stuff, and they did a lot of cross-promotion with us. Then when Mr. Lawman took over, that's when we started working with him. And even most recently, within the last 2 years, I started talking with whoever, well, it was Teresa the last 2 years, of just as far as what type of wristbands they were using, what security they were using, cross-communication between us. If she has someone that's been served or they said that's no longer allowed within their beer garden, they'll let me know and vice versa, just for the safety. Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead, please.
And that's pretty much it. But yes, it is a community event. I mean,
so you have coordinated with other agencies in the town, like the Arts Council, or?
Since we first started doing it, after the first, we opened up 9 years ago, but it makes our 10th Blues Fest back in 2010.
You put some effort into marketing and cooperating?
Cooperating with them as far as everything.
And what's your interest in doing a bike run? Are you a biker?
Well, my family is. Not me particularly. I had a bike, but the fact that I have to run the operation, I don't get to go on the bike run, and I sold it because I didn't have enough time to be. I had a bike for 5 years. I rode it maybe 5 times.
The issue comes down to an event. Alcohol is an accessory to an event.
Yes, sir.
It's not the other way around.
Yes, sir.
So what I'm trying to ascertain is whether this is an opportunity to sell more liquor and you create an event to justify the selling of more liquor.
Well, we did it.
And I mention that to the city council because when they consider your license, the threshold is whether this is truly a public celebration, because if it's not, that's the end of the case right there. There is no alcohol because there is no public celebration. In the absence of a public celebration, as it's defined by the state law.
This is a special dispenser permit. We're allowed to do private or public events. Right. It's different with different type of liquor licenses.
Right,
so with
but you're doing a public event.
Yes, sir.
Stated it's a public celebration.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So what I make with these inquiries is because it's really a two-part consideration for the town council. The first part is this a public celebration as contemplated within the law? And you've made your case why it is, and the council will consider that. The second is that you're asking, you have the proper servers, you have the proper license, you have the proper security, so you're meeting all of those thresholds.
Yes, sir.
The council won't even consider those until they make the decision about whether this is a valid public celebration.
Yes, sir.
That's why I'm questioning you, and if the council has any further questions...
Well, I could answer that too as well, and give a little bit more. The reason why it's a public celebration and why it's turned into that, initially it necessarily wasn't the first year, but after we've been working with the Arts Council, it's kind of where the Arts Council relies on us because they have so many bikers that were coming to the event with no bike run. We were the first people to put a run together for the public. I'm not doing it for any other reason than the fact it's honestly more of a headache to me to be doing it, but I do it because it's a way for us to give back to the community that's given back so much to us. And when I say that, we're not doing it to make any type of money. If I were to tell you what we spend on the event, your eyes would probably pop out, but that's besides the point. The money that we get back isn't necessarily worth the expenditure, if that makes any sense. For me, we do it for the community, so it is a public event. I've never, ever turned away anybody that wants to come in because it is a public celebration, one for the weekend, one for our anniversary, and now working with the Arts Council, we work hand in hand with them. So it's something, like I said in the beginning, where we went, even when I first planned on doing it, I went to Faye and we sat down with the Arts Council from the very beginning. Sat down with her, told her this is exactly what we wanted to do. Even when she started getting the other stuff that was as far as the cage of whatever and the drag racing and all stuff that was a little bit more down the street, we still coordinated with her. And there's always going to be people, that have their own things, but we work hand in hand with the Arts Council because it's ultimately their event. You know what I mean? It's their thing, it's their big celebration. We just happen to open up on that day, but we have been coordinating for the past 9 years with the Arts Council. And if they ever, if Faye or even Kevin objected to us having it because of any type of risk or whatever it is, or just they're afraid that it's going to affect their event, I would have to respect that. I actually did that one year where I didn't want to pay for the insurance and all that stuff for the street, so we serve alcohol either way. My property is licensed, so I did it all on the confines of my property. So, it's not a big thing to have the liquor out on the street for me, but the fact that we already put it in place and the planning has already been happening since after last year's Blues Fest, and it's been a whole year of planning. This is the biggest event that we personally have all year. We have many events at our restaurant, whether it's big or small, but this is by far obviously the biggest people, and a lot of it is locals. A lot of the people that do attend the Blues Fest are from out of town and locals, but we get a big local draw because people go to our corner because they feel like that's the little corner to meet on where they know that they're going to see a lot of familiar faces. I don't know if that's answering any of the questions, but I do. I wasn't going to answer any other questions.
Okay, I want to go to the council for any comments or questions.
I have one comment.
Councilman Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Quintana. I have been on the council now for 5 years, and I remember when you talked about the various things that were done on the bike front and how people really enjoyed it and how the cause was really for public good causes. And so I just want to also acknowledge how hard you have worked, I know, to coordinate with other entities around you. And are there still going to be beautiful bikes?
We are. We're having a car show and a bike show. We got with the local car club called the Viejitos that they're going to be doing a car and a bike show. And then last last year, we worked with Armaduras, which is a motorcycle club, to be helping us with our run. This year, we got with another motorcycle club to help us out with that. And, you know, we've had calls, and I know even what you were trying to say with the bike run, how does it work? There were certain people that they would say, well, is it a poker run? No, it's not a poker run. And the reason why it's not a poker run is because you don't have to pay anything to receive one of those raffle tickets. It's not where any money goes to a chance of winning. Anybody that walks through our doors is getting something, has a chance of winning it, but there's no entry fee to get in. There's no, even the entry fee for the bike run goes towards the shirts and the food. The remainder of the money goes to a donation to whoever we feel that's, you know, necessary. So that is one of the things, and that's one of the responsibilities, is even us having a liquor license and doing such events, whether it was with our full liquor license, our beer and wine license, our brewer's license. It's the same laws all the way around. So I called Santa Fe, you know, and made sure that the way that we were doing it was okay, and that's the precautions that I take, you know what I mean, for my events. And there's been events that might be going on in town, but we try to stay away from stuff like that because it's just not worth it.
So thank you for your continuing contributions as a community spirit.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the council? Thank you. Thank you. Do I hear a motion? Councilor Conrad.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve of the special suspension permit application for the Nelson Mountain Bike Run and Hughes Southern Beach anniversary on May 24th, 25th, 2019 at 101 West College Avenue, Silver City, New Mexico, with alcohol service on May 24th from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. and on May 25th from 12:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. License holder information, Bell Enterprises LLC, doing business as Hughes Southern Bistro LLC, license number 28098 101 West College Avenue, Silver City, New Mexico 88061.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is 12B, the approval/disapproval of special dispenser permit application for the Iron Door BBQ and Beers Memorial Weekend event on May 24 through 26, 2019 at 1123 North Polk Street, Silver City, New Mexico, with alcohol service on May 24, 2019 from 5 p.m. to 11:30 p.m., alcohol service on May 25 from 12 p.m. to 11:30 p.m., and alcohol service on May 26 from 12 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. License holder information, WNN Enterprises Incorporated, DBA, Snappy Mart number 204, liquor license number 0151, P.O. Box 559, Silver City, New Mexico 88062. I think Mr. Alan Townsend will be making this presentation, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please proceed.
So I'm Alan Townsend. I own Allstate Agency, 12th and Polk Street, right across the street from Rock Park. I bought the Allstate Agency 2015. Every year I've had a customer appreciation event, usually by the 1st of May. And this year we were out of town on business, so we've had to postpone it to the end of May. So this is why we're requesting this event permit, so we can have our guests come by. And we also are opening up Iron Door Barbecue, and it's going to be more of a food trailer set up, and we want to do some more special events and start maybe doing barbecue business on the weekend. We have got our license, our food handlers permits, and everything else that we have needed to do that, tax numbers and the whole 9 yards. So this is a way that we're looking at, bringing more business into Silver City. I know it is coinciding with the golf park Blues Fest. We have not anticipated to do anything to hurt them, but nothing but to gain more people to come to town. I personally have probably 15, 20 people coming from Albuquerque, Grants, New Mexico, El Paso to come to our event at our office there. So, let's see here. I know there has been concern, which was stated earlier in open public mic, and about the safety and stuff like that. We do have all of the proper procedures in place, including fencing, wristbands, ID checks, security, the whole 9 yards. I see 12 vendors coming in for a winery fest, and I don't see why all of a sudden now it's a situation that people don't like because we have more than one beer garden in the neighborhood. I did buy the property at 12th and Polk Street, for two purposes. One was to do my business with my Allstate Insurance Agency and to do our barbecue cooking. One thing that we want to do, hopefully by this time next year, is actually put together a barbecue cook-off to bring teams and competition in from all over the state of New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and different places like that, Texas, to do an actual cook-off to actually bring more business in to Silver City to help, sustain our town here.
You have several people with you. Does anyone else?
Yes, they're Western, this is W&N Enterprise. They're the ones that are actually going to be doing the alcohol. They're the ones that will be setting everything up and doing all the liquor licensing and all that stuff.
Mr. Jim Nivik, welcome. Are there any comments or questions from the council and Mr. Scarborough? And I'll go first with Councilor Cano.
Actually, I have 3 questions. The first one is, you're anticipating 250 people are going to attend this event. In a situation where we already have extreme amounts of people at Golf Park, where do you plan for those 250 people to be parking?
So we do have a very big parking lot at our facility. I don't know if anybody's been by there, but we do have.
But we looked at your map, and your map has the entire front of your building parked.
And we do have the back and street parking as well.
Okay, that street parking is used for the Blues Fest normally, so
my business is affected by a lot of events in town. I don't complain. The road gets closed off. My customers don't have access to my building. I deal with it. This is one thing that, it's a give and take situation. And like I said, there will be a lot of people, coming in from out of town, parking wherever.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm Jim Bennett. I can answer that as well. The food basket, we accommodate parking for the Blues Fest and never, turn people away. We try to control it. And we have the south side of the business as well. And we can use that ourselves, but we also use it for the Blues Fest. So I think there's plenty of parking. That we're not going to take up parking for the Blues Fest.
Okay. My next question is, you also mentioned that you're going to have a DJ playing. How do you think that's going to affect the musicians that are playing in Golf Park?
It's not going to be affecting them because it's going to be after hours. It's going to be after, everybody shuts down over at the park, and we're going to have dancing and stuff like that.
Okay, as far as I recall from 2 weeks ago, and Mr. Legnick, I believe is still here, he may be able to answer this. The Blues Fest will go until 10:30 or 11. I know he and I had an argument about this at the last meeting, so you could probably perhaps answer that for me. So that's going to be maybe an hour that you'll have a DJ then? Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the next thing is, I just would like to know if you collaborated in any way with the New Michigan Arts Council, with Teresa Balderdine at the Toad, who is doing the Blues Fest, Beer Garden, or Mr. Quintana, who has an event every year for the past 10 years.
This is a private gathering that we're having, so I have not talked with the Arts Council. I do a lot in this community. I am a volunteer. I am on the foundation of the hospital as the president of that board. I am a volunteer for the PA Fire Department. I also am a volunteer on the DWI Task Force group here. So I do try to put back into my community every way we can.
And that's appreciated, just as it is appreciated that Mr. Wagner and his staff, Ms. Albany and her staff, and Mr. Quintana and his staff also put into the community.
Any Councilor Madison?
So I understand that you've stated publicly twice that this is a private event. You are requesting a public event per your application. So this is typically where the council says, wait a minute, you have asked for a public event, and in your letter you asked for a public event, but you have stated now here twice that it's a private event, and I'm going to at some point go to Mr. Scavron in a minute. I do want to ask I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Okay. Captain, could you explain, or could you comment on behalf of Silver City PD about how this could potentially impact our ability and your ability to manage the number of people that come into town, and the existing beer garden and the work that's already been done between the existing beer garden and Mr. Quintana, who has been doing this for 10 years, and how they work with the officers of the department?
The way our department stands right now, I already talked to the chief, I know already couldn't be here yet, there was some training, is that we have a low manpower right now. So having officers to go all over the place, it could create an issue, being that, Blues Fest is one of our busier events that we have in town.
Yeah, I would just remind you, and I know that Mr. Scavron at some point is going to speak about this, is that one of the things that the council has to be concerned with is the health, safety, and welfare of the town. And that's when we make these decisions, and why you see the questions being asked of you and asked of Mr. Quintana before, and other people that have done this in the past. So I don't know if anybody, but Mr. Scavron, could you speak to some of the concerns that both Councilor Kano and I and other council members have brought up?
When did you buy your building, Mr. Townsend?
Last year.
So this would be the first...
This will be the first year. This is the first year of our Iron Door Barbecue as well.
Okay, now you've told us in different ways that this is a private gathering, that it's a food, trailer, and customer appreciation event, yet your application says it's a public event, so which is it?
It's open to the public. I, as a business owner, definitely want to attract more new business into my agency. I've been here for almost 13 years, and there's still a lot of people I don't know in this town. I do know a lot of people in this town, but I am trying to get my word out to grow my agency as well, and my barbecue.
So this is a promotion, a business promotion?
It goes hand in hand.
With what? With
customer appreciation.
Yeah.
Customer appreciation?
My customers will bring new customers.
I see, so it's a business-oriented operation?
Business, and it's an event to the public.
It's a business operation primarily, and who it's open to is not what I'm questioning. I'm questioning that, according to the law, public celebration is used in this section. Public celebration includes any state fair, county fair, community fiesta, cultural or artistic performance, or professional athletic competition of a seasonal nature, or activities held on an intermittent basis.
Sure.
Let me finish. How is customer appreciation and a business model of trying to attract more people at community fiesta? Because that's the only category that you can fit into, unless you're going to have three-legged races around your parking lot.
No, we got a community dance, we have a DJ, we have things for the community.
You have a 1 hour DJ.
That's not 1 hour.
No, it's 9 p.m. until 11:30.
Yes, sir.
What time did the Blues
Yes.
Festival ends when? 9?
No, not on Friday.
Mr. Lipnick, is Kevin still back there?
The music goes until 8:30, the beer garden's open until 10.
So you'll start your DJ after that, and when will it end? What time?
12 midnight.
Yeah, 12 minutes.
The reason I'm questioning you the way I questioned the previous applicant was alcohol is not the primary driver, it's the event. And the events are limited to state fair, which everybody knows what a state fair is. Nobody's It's not for one business trying to make money by getting more customers, same as a county fair. A community fiesta. I think that people would agree that a bike run or a blues festival or a clay festival is a community fiesta. How a business promotion can be a community fiesta is open to argument and conjecture. And I just point that out to the council, that before you get to that, this is a two-part process in your own mind. The first is to decide whether this in fact is a public celebration. If it is not a public celebration, then we don't even talk about the alcohol. If it is a public celebration, then you move on to whether the security is there, whether they have a proper license, whether it's safe for the town. In public dispenser permits, the licensing and the application for the license and the comporting to law is a state function. But this is one of the few areas where the state tells the applicant and the sponsor that the local government has priority. That if the local government believes that it's not a community public celebration, that it's something else, it can make that decision. We don't think that you're a community, that this is a public celebration. If you make that decision in your minds, then deciding whether there should be alcohol there or not, it becomes a moot question. So you need to be satisfied and do your own questioning. You've heard the responses to my questions about whether this is in fact a business promotion benefiting not the community, but benefiting a businessman, number one. Whether the concerns of the captain from the police department about extra people, and if a fight breaks out in one beer garden, is it going to use all the resources if the fight breaks out in the other beer garden? Who knows? But these are considerations that you're allowed to consider. In the application itself, it mentions that there's only 3 grounds that can be used to deny an application. But unfortunately, that commentary is not correct. That only applies to the issuance of new licenses. So for the criteria that you use to make this decision has to be based on evidence. You make findings based upon the evidence, what you hear, plus your reasonable cognitive processes. So I'm acting on your behalf, asking these questions, because this is a new entity. I listened to the testimony. I asked for affirmation of the testimony. It's being couched as a public celebration. That's the way it's going to go up to Santa Fe. But the presentation here is of a private celebration.
Any other comments from the council? Councilor Ray.
Yes, sir, thank you. I have some concerns, and it's a concern that having too many liquor licenses or permits available, I'm concerned that the city might get sued or somewhere along the line. Maybe the police department, maybe somebody else. It's just a thought. To me, that's a big concern.
Can I answer that? And Councilor, I appreciate your concerns. Some of them are petty, some of them are not valid, and there's a lot of misconception here. This is a public event, and it's open to everybody. And we have the right as a license holder to give this permit. And I don't, see why we're concerned with safety. WM has over 20 years in safety and doing public events, more years combined than anybody that combined in this room. And I don't think that is concern. We have our own security staff here, and we do not have to depend on the police department and our servers are actually trained and experienced for over-serving. We have never had an issue with that. You can look at our background. So to even bring that up is offensive to me. And I'm going to say that with this public event, that we've already looked at an event that's Swine Fest that's got 12 vendors in there, and you're concerned for safety. Can you imagine 12 different vendors, and we're talking about 3 here? I mean, come on, let's really get realistic here. I'm telling you that this event is public, and there's nothing wrong with it, and basically it'd be adversary and basically it'd be capricious for you to even deny us, because we just approved, Toe Creek, we approved the queues, and we also approved the Wine Fest. I think I would look at that and really reconsider.
But none of those applications were for private business enhancement. That's a major difference.
This is a public event, we have a public bench, and it doesn't matter how you want to interpret it, it is what it is, and it's not any different than what the Q's is doing, and it's on commercial, we're zoned, and we have...
You're arguing as the liquor licensee. You're not arguing as the sponsor. You seem to be very passionate about the opportunity to sell liquor.
I'm passionate because...
After the event, are you going...
Oh, we're passionate for the event. We are committed to donate, money to the event.
That's being civil. Okay?
But we are committed to donate. And, the event is very important to civil service. I'm sorry.
Give everybody a chance to make their point and be civil to each other. Okay, let's proceed.
My concern, Mr. Townsend, you just bought the property, you want to expand your business, and you're calling it a public celebration, and the timing is impeccable, because you'll get all the flow from the Blues Festival. So let me say what has not been said. There is a very strong suspicion in the community that you're not the driver of the event. The liquor seller is the driver of the event. You could have chosen any time to have your appreciation, any time to have your...
Suspicion shouldn't be part of the facts that we're trying to get at today,
Yes,
okay?
Yes, I accede to your statement. The purpose of the questioning is to find out for the council whether this is truly a public celebration or not. That decision is primary because it's the celebration that is the celebration, not the opportunity to sell liquor, with the celebration being accessorial to the sale of liquor. That's the concern. Besides that concern is also the public safety issue, which the police chief talked about, and I'm not going to, that's not my area. So you can understand why the questioning, you weren't asked any questions that were different than were asked Mr. Quintana. And he explained what his involvement was, and he made his best case to the council about why his particular function, even though he was the sponsor, so there's nothing wrong with if you were the sponsor, Mr. Nenich, but it had to do with how he made the community, how he made his event part of the community, turning it into the nature of a community event, a public celebration. I've given you the same opportunity that gave him to convince the town council why what you're doing was initiated by yourself for the benefit of the community rather than for your personal benefit. I would ask you why the application is coming in now 14 days before the event or 12 days before the event. If it was that important, one might say you should have done it 6 months ago. So you've made your case. The council was paying attention to my questions and your answers. I'm not accusing anybody of fraud or of making all this up just so that Mr. Nenich can sell more liquor. But those are considerations that are worthy considerations of the council. None of it is petty.
Councilor Edison has a comment. Councilor Edison?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to be really clear. As I stated before, the primary goal of whatever the council does is the health, safety, and welfare of the town. If our department, our police department, and our chief has said that we are stretched thin, we have a number of people already coming in. We have a beer garden that was established, was it on the 23rd or was it in April 9th? I can't remember which council meeting it was. I'm sorry. And we were presented with another thing that has happened over 10 years that was well explained. I think you need to understand that I have to take into consideration for the health, safety, and welfare of not only the citizens of this town, but also everyone that comes into this town for the Blues Festival, which is already situated. If our chief of the police, through his captain, is stating that we have an issue, that is something that I have to consider, and that is my prerogative as a council member. It is not whether or not you have enough security, it's whether or not our town has enough officers to deal with all of this. So you have to understand there's a bigger picture, and please don't presume that that is petty or inappropriate for me as a council member to consider. I mean, I really take a little bit of umbrage at that.
Right, I'm sorry for the term that I used, but it's just hard for me to comprehend the fact that we've had bigger events, and we've got one coming up at the Wine Fest, and this is going to be a problem for our township, you know, with enforcing security and whatnot. You know, that's, I mean, if this is the case, then we may need to review some of the Wine Fest and some other events coming up.
Mr. Skaggs, can I say something before you do? I want to point out that the wine festival is completely enclosed.
Yes.
And this is a new method of trying to do this. So that is a new method of where it's 6 feet tall, all the way around. There's one point of egress and entrance. Right. There's and there's floating security on the inside. That was fully explained. This is completely different. We have, this is my prerogative to speak, it is from my perspective, completely different. It is not all enclosed within Golf Park. I want to make that point, okay? So, I'm not going to say any more response to this, except for what I've told you, what my concern is and my considerations are. And Mr. Skavron, if there's something you want to add, please do, but I'm a little offended by the thought that you think that I shouldn't consider what my police department's saying.
Councilor Thomas, did you have a comment?
Are you ready for?
No. Mrs. Skavron, did you have another comment? If not, it's okay. I just want to make sure everybody's got their say.
I can go on and on, but I won't. I think that the important points have been made. Mm-hmm. I'm not taking a position one way or the other, but I'm making sure that the issues are outlined clearly. This is a unique circumstance, and I just wanted to remind everybody about what the state law was and how it should be applied.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Nitty, do you want to say anything before?
Yes. You know, I want to apologize to the council for my language. I didn't mean the pettiness and whatnot, but it just irritated me a little bit. We do have a 6-foot fence around the whole event, and we do have egress. We have an entrance, and we have an exit. And we have porta potties. We are self-sustained as far as within our own event. And we have our own security. And, you know, and I just want the council to consider, you know, what we're trying to do. I've seen people up here that are protesting because they think we're going to interfere with the event, with the Blues Fest. That is not true. That we are committed to supporting the Blues Fest. We're committed to making a considerable contribution to the Blues Fest because it is a community event along with our event, and I think it's great for the community. And we're not trying to impose on anything, take away from anybody, and I would appreciate if y'all would consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think we've had quite a bit of discussion on this, and so I will now call for a motion. Councilor Connell?
Mr. Mayor, may I make a statement before, please?
Yes.
Okay, I just want the public to be aware that our policy is that when we make a motion, it's usually the person whose district the property is in that makes the motion, which is my district. And also, we do our motions in the affirmative, so I will be making a motion to approve. However, I am going to state right now that I will be voting nay when I am done with that. Okay? So my motion is to approve of a special dispenser permit application for the Iron Door Barbecue and Beers Memorial Weekend event on May 24th to 26th, 2019 at 1123 North Polk Street, Silver City, New Mexico, with alcohol service on May 24th, 2019 from 5 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. Alcohol service on May 25th from 12 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. and alcohol service on May 26th from 12 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. License holder information, WNN Enterprises Incorporated, doing business as Snappy Mart number 204, liquor license number 0151, P.O. Box 559, Silver City, New Mexico 88062.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second? Councilor Benson?
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion as stated.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion with the council? I would like to ask for a roll call, please, Ann.
Councilor Connor? Nay. Councilor Ryan?
Nay.
Councilor Amos Smith? Nay. Councilor Madison?
Nay.
Motion does not carry. Next item is 12C, the approval/disapproval of resolution number 2019-14, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a P&M Solar Direct Service agreement. I'm going to ask Alex, this is your item. You want to pass it on?
Yes, I would like to pass this on to allow Mr. Ashburn to start making the presentation on what we're looking at.
Mr. Ashburn?
My name is Bruce Ashburn. Good evening, Mayor, councilors. It's always fun to spend an evening with you. With that being said, I'm here to talk to you tonight about an opportunity that P&M has put together for the city to participate in. But before I get to the actual project, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the last legislative session and some of the things that went on. I think most of you are probably aware, we have had as a company for a very long time now a renewable goal by 2020 that would have required 20% of our retail sales to be generated by some form of renewable energy. This last session, those renewable goals have been changed, or added to actually, to include by 2025, we're going to be required to be at 40%. By 2050, we'll be at, by 2030, we'll be at 50%. And the goal going forward is for us to be 100% carbon-free production in New Mexico by 2040. So with those goals in mind, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the program now. I'd like to call your attention to the document that I gave you this evening that says Silver City at the top. This is kind of an overview of the program that we're talking about. Again, this is a voluntary program. The city is eligible for a 1 megawatt subscription, and it is a subscription service. The generation details go as this. There's going to be a 50 megawatt solar facility proposed. It's going to be located in northern New Mexico, Rio Arriba County. P&M completed this bid through an extensive and competitive RFP process, and P&M is going to sign a purchase power agreement with the facility developer for a 15-year period. So what does that do for Silver City? Should you decide to allow Mr. Brown to sign this notice of intent, it would allow Silver City to demonstrate a commitment to renewables and it'll move Silver City toward its sustainability goals, and allow you to take advantage of the economies of scale that come with building a 50-megawatt system. It also puts Silver City at the forefront in New Mexico and nationally as a renewable energy leader. The financial benefits it's going to provide is that this program is going to provide stability against fluctuations in the fuel cost as we go forward. Silver City is going to also benefit from the investment tax credits that will be used to build this facility, and those investment tax credits are going to be stepped down after 2019. Probably the most exciting thing that I can tell you is that this product is not asking for any upfront capital at all. There's no cost to the city to join this subscription program. At the bottom of that sheet, there's a timeline that shows you the different sections, steps that we've taken. The RFP process has been completed. We're in the notice of intent phase. And if you look, the next step would be PRC approval. The reason that we're asking for the notice of intent is because it's much easier to get PRC approval for a program if we can go to them and tell them that it's fully subscribed. Where we have problems is if we go up there and tell them we have a product that we want to sell, but it's not, that we can't demonstrate that there's an interest in that product. So with that being said, the final step 4, would be the constructions, and it shows that the operation target date is March of 2021. So that's when it would actually go online. So what I'd like to do now is direct your attention to the sheet with the yellow on top. And this is how the program actually works. You will have the opportunity to subscribe to 1,000 kWh, or that is 1 megawatt. So the electricity produced from that would be 2,715,600 kWh. The cost is going to be $59,743. All participants in this program will pay some form of an annual administrative fee. Recs are going to have to be retired. There's going to be some other paperwork that goes along with it. That fee is based on your subscription level and is shared by all of the participants that are in the program. So what we did, if you look at the fuel credit line, is we went back from 10 of 2016 all the way through 4 of 2019, and we tracked the fuel cost. Fuel cost at its highest point was the 2.24 cents that is listed on your sheet. The lowest point in that time frame was 1.5 cents. I can tell you that the average over that period of time was 2.02 cents. So that gives you some idea of where we're at as far as what the different costs are over that time frame. Additionally, you are going to wind up with a credit because the electricity that you're going to get from this product no longer is going to be using coal. The coal plants, as we go forward, are going to be phased out. So you get the variable credit, the operation and maintenance credit listed on your sheet. If you look, the high estimation, if the fuel cost remains at the high, which is the 2.24 cents, the cost of that would be $60,859, the credit that you would receive. So if you look on the other side, the net impact, that would produce for you a $16,353 credit on your bill. Should the fuel cost go low, there is a little bit of risk if it stays at the absolute lowest point, which is the 1.5 cents. At the end of the year, there would be an additional cost of $3,357. Now, the reason that this is important going forward is because the moment that this product goes online in 2021, the town of Silver City, according to the figures that we originally came up with, would have been 45% renewable, meaning 45% of all energy used in the city would have been generated through a renewable source. I'm sorry? Yes, used by the city. So, Mr. Brown brought to my attention that you also have a 1 megawatt system out at the wastewater treatment plant. And that number actually, as we revisited our numbers, would go to 57% actual renewable energy generated and used by the city. So if we were looking at the original numbers, the 45%, by 2025, the city would actually go to 67%, even if you did absolutely nothing at all. And this is based on the original estimates, not the additional 1 megawatt. I'll have to get updated numbers, but anything that I tell you about renewable is actually going to be more because of your production there. So in any case, using the original numbers by 2025, just based on the additional requirements that I went over with you on the renewable portfolio standard, it would take the city to 67%. By 2030, you would be at 72% minimum. And by 2040, 89% of the energy produced or used by the city would be from a renewable source. So realistically, what we're looking at here is a plan that is based on future fuel costs. That's what it's going to be based on. Fuel cost is high, if the fuel cost is high, you're going to generate a credit on this side of the bill. And if it's low, then you'll see a benefit on the other part. We're talking about 57%, so 43% of the electricity that you're using is going to be generated from the traditional source. So if fuel cost is low, then you'll benefit on that side. So it's kind of a hedge if it goes up or down. The real key here is how interested are you in renewable energy going forward. This is an opportunity for you to have the opportunity to become a real leader in renewable energy as we go forward into the future.
Mayor, I just want to state that, first of all, you're giving the mayor if it's passed, you'll be giving the mayor permission to sign this. Second is, it's basically they'll be doing what we've already done, using the power purchase agreement for 15 years, I believe. And so, as with our 1 megawatt facility, it has really stabilized the cost of electricity. This is what this will do for us on this side as well, while at the same time moving forward into renewable energy. You would ask sometimes, why don't we just go ahead and do it ourselves? Well, the only reason that what we did was profitable was because we jumped on it early. The RECs, I believe, that we got were 12 cents per kilowatt hour. What is that, the average now, about 2 cents?
No more than 2 cents.
No more than 2 cents. So that's all impossible to get what we're getting now. I really feel that this is a positive direction that we can move, that will give us a little bit more stability in the long term as far as our electrical costs. With that, any questions that you might have for me?
The other part of this is that under the leadership, people like Representative Martinez and other state legislators, the state of New Mexico has made some significant decisions to lead us into the future by using more renewable energy resources. And I think this is a win-win situation for Silver City, and I'd really like to encourage the council to authorize us to sign this agreement. Councilor Benson?
Thank you, Mayor. You said most of what I was going to say, but I was going to bring up the fact that I can't remember the composition of the council at the time when we did the original purchase power agreement. But part of why we did that was so that we didn't have to pass on the rising costs of electricity through our bills to, our customers, that use our utilities. So to me, this is just another way of making sure that we ourselves as Silver City, the town, we're trying to save money also for the people that utilize and all the services that we do for the town. So it's another way of just making sure that through renewables, we're not having to pass on increased electric costs that we have to pass on in order to function and to do what we do. So it's...
Yes, and the best, right now, the best route to go as far as if a government entity wants to move towards renewables is to work with a private entity, a public-private partnership, because as with the PPA, Affordable Solar was able to get the RECs, New Mexico state tax credits, federal tax credits. We couldn't have done that. So it was much cheaper for them to build it because of the tax credits and pass on that savings to us. This is part of what's happening here. Not as big because we're farther down the road. The savings more is in construction costs because the more reliable, cheaper solar panels than what we were dealing with at that time, but they still have that environment where they can take care of the tax credits. That makes it cheaper and more affordable for us. And so those savings are passed on to us. And so I would recommend that we move in this direction.
And I was also going to mention that we don't own a transmission line. So, I mean, what Affordable Solar, what we did down there, that was a game changer for the first move towards sustainability, and this itself is another, even better in some ways than what we've done before. What we did down at the wastewater treatment plant with Affordable Solar. So, and it's something that, when people come and say, why doesn't the town have its own electric co-op? It's like, well, we don't own the transmission lines. So there is that tiny little issue about trying to, build something and then move the electricity, to where it goes. So I just wanted to mention that to me, this is an incredible opportunity to pass on savings, not only, but to the folks in the town and to our customers, so.
Bruce, who are some of the other participants right now?
Currently, I have talked to Dr. Shepard about this before I say this, so he's already told me it's okay, but I presented this to Dr. Shepard, and the only question he asked me was, how soon can we have a press conference after I sign the document? So, that sounds like Dr. Shepard. Last night, Debbie approved a resolution to sign the NOI. Of course, I'm looking for you to do this evening, and I believe Denver Public Schools are going to do the same on Thursday. So I'm still working with both of the commissions as well, here and in Denver. And the response has been positive everywhere so far.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Bedison, for those comments. Does anyone else want to?
I have two quick.
Councilman Smith?
I have actually two quick questions. When you speak about fuel costs, could you please tell me and the public what fuel costs means in terms of this document?
Absolutely. So fuel costs include all of the costs that we incur to generate electricity. So that would include nuclear, that would include coal, it would include gas, it would include anything that is generation specific. The PRC long ago mandated that we could pass those costs on to our customers, but we are not allowed to make a profit off any of that. So effectively what happens in this product is we have none of those, and we're passing that savings on to you.
Thank you. One other comment. So this facility is it currently under construction in Rio Arriba County?
No, it's still pending.
It's still pending. My mother was born in Rio Arriba County, so it makes me wonder where it's going to be. So
I would love to tell you more about it, but until we have a signed contract, I just can't. We're 99.9% done with the contract, and as soon as that happens, I'll let you know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other council comments, questions? Then I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Bedison?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve a resolution number 2019-14, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a P&M Solar Direct Service Agreement.
Motion, is there a second? Councilor Turner?
Yes, Mayor, I will second that motion.
I saw your finger. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
No, it's resolution.
Roll call.
Is that a roll call in? Okay, roll call in.
Councilor Edison? Aye. Councilor Anderson? Aye. Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Connor?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Let me just leave with one more comment. I would like to commend Silver City for being proactive and for actually doing the solar project. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys were the second or third project in the state, weren't you? I mean, it was out of the box. It was something new, and I wore a suit to the presentation to Jane to make sure that everybody knew I was the only person that would wear a suit for this job.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 12D, the approval/disapproval of notice of intent ordinance number 1278, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, Elections, Section 2-21 through 2-29, and Appendix D of the Municipal Code of the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico. And our attorney, Mr. Scavron, will present this in a way.
Council, Mayor, let's back up a little bit. The territorial charter of the Town of Silver City authorizes the Town Council to, by ordinance, adopt a method of conducting its elections. This NOI is following through. This will, if you adopt this ordinance eventually, it will be your acting pursuant to those powers, and you would be adopting the Local Election Act as passed by the state in its complete form. So even though there's been controversy about whether we can conduct our own elections in our own manner, the forces of compromise and moving forward have made it clear that the uniformity that the legislature wants uniformity. Maybe it'll work out for the best for everybody. But in the meanwhile, the town did not advocate its territorial charter. The decision that you're making to adopt the state ordinance, the state statute as the town's ordinance, is pursuant to the powers that you have as a town council and is contemplated by the territorial charter. Now, consequences of adopting the state statute, we can do nothing and just follow what the state law says, or we can actually make the state law our law, so that it can be enforced locally in our municipal court if we choose, or it can be enforced in the magistrate court under the state law. Just like many of the activities that the town regulates are also regulated by the state. In this case, they're going to be identical. That we are adopting, just like we adopt the International Fire Code, we are adopting the state Local Election Act as our election code. The consequences, and Ann can probably better, because I had a long day driving today, but the law also allows for the extension of terms, the abbreviation or extension of terms, so that compliance with the law will be done. The town has an early commitment, and it's provided for in our territorial charter, to have staggered elections. That's going to be preserved. So come our first and the March elections will continue to be in March. We're not opting in so that we can do November. Right? So the elections will be in March. They will be every 2 years. The stagger will continue. Certainly, and would you just tell us which counselor positions are going to be extended and who will be up for election in March 2020?
Okay, so the NOI does extend everybody's term beginning in March 2020. Beginning in March 2020, everyone will go to 4-year terms. So in March 2020, councilors in District 1 and District 3 will be elected for a 4-year term. So that's extending your current term that expired in March of 2019 to March of 2020. Then there'll be an election for any persons, any qualified electors that want to run for office in councilors District 1 and 3. Then the municipal officers' elections are in March of even-numbered years. So the next election would be March of 2022. This ordinance extends the terms of the mayor position and the councilor positions in Districts 2 and 4 to 2022. At that time, those positions will also be elected for a 4-year term. So the ordinance is extending your current terms and providing for elections for municipal officer election day in March of even-numbered years. The NOI also discusses our process for vacancy, so that's in there. So if you have any questions, we can certainly try to answer them.
Councilor Benson?
So if I remember correctly, according to okay, I gotta make sure I say it right. The new local election act, which would be the thing that we would adopt if we approve this, that councilor positions that are elected in March of even years would begin on, April 1st of even years. So yes, on April Fool's Day. So I just wanted to let everybody know that is originally what was in our charter quite some time ago. So it's interesting that we've gone back to that. So just wanted to mention that there'll be that gap between the current council will serve. If there's new council members elected, they will serve until April 1st.
Yes, and
the end of April. I just want to make sure that,
And the process of certifying the election is taking a little bit more time with the Local Election Act than what we were accustomed to. So the Secretary of State will certify elections.
And if I also remember correctly, it's also a different cycle for everything from going in and doing the 9 to 5 when we can go in and put in our canvassing. Everything has been shifted per the Local Election Act. And so we are one of those communities that if we so approve this, that we retain our March elections as permitted under the Local Election Act, but they're only in even-numbered years from now on.
Yes, but any future council can change their mind.
And they can opt in to
opt into November. And change their mind again after 2 cycles.
Yes.
So currently that's the way it is.
Yes, and that has been discussed by a number of councils that have adopted to opt in. Some of them are already talking about how long does it take for us to go through it to when we can get out. So, and they haven't even done their election yet. So it's up to the council every 2 years if they decide that they want to opt in or get back out.
I believe they have to have 2 election cycles before they can change their mind.
Yeah.
And we do have one other elected official in our government.
I was going to ask you about that.
The municipal judge has a 4-year term anyway, so that term has not been affected. The current municipal judge's term ends in 2022, which is perfect because we'll have an election in March of 2022 if you approve this.
Any other questions or comments from the council?
One quick comment.
Councilor Amos Smith?
This is more a comment to my fellows and to the public, which is that the Secretary of State's website has a very useful training module on it about the Local Election Act that I went through today. So just to let you know that all of these questions that are coming to our minds, there is information.
Okay. Do I hear a motion? Councilor Amos Smith?
I move to approve notice of intent, ordinance number 1278, and ordinance amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, Elections, Sections 2.21 through 2.29, and Appendix D of the Municipal Code of the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. Not to add anything. Yes. I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The next item is 12E, is the appointment to the Municipal Museum Community Advisory Group. The town received an application from Judy Billings to continue her service in that advisory group. The chair of the group and the museum director both recommend her reappointment. If there are no objections, I would like to reappoint her. Any objections? She is hereby reappointed. The next item is 12F, is the appointment to the cemetery board. The town received applications from Jeff Bell and Paul Vaca to continue their service on the cemetery board. The chair of the cemetery board and Peter Pena, Public Works Director, have recommended their reappointments. If there are no objections, I'd like to reappoint them. No objection, they are hereby reappointed. This concludes the business of the town of Silver City. Do I hear a motion? Councilor Smith. Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are hereby adjourned.